Have you ever imagined how a simple act of kindness can change the course of an entire life? In a cold, forgotten little town called Willow Creek, a war veteran, marked by life's scars and an unconditional love for his daughter, crosses paths with a mysterious woman. They didn't know it, but that encounter at the supermarket would be the starting point for a whirlwind of revelations, moral dilemmas, and secrets buried in the past of a powerful family. Now imagine accidentally discovering an old diary hidden in a mansion, revealing betrayals, losses, and a forgotten inheritance. What if your daughter's future is directly linked to all of this? How far would you go to protect those you love, even when the truth threatens to turn your world upside down? In The Legacy of Willow Creek, you will be led through an engaging plot, full of emotion, suspense, and twists that will keep you hooked from beginning to end. So, prepare your coffee, settle into your favorite spot, and come with me on this cinematic journey. A story of love, justice, and redemption awaits you, and you won't want to miss any detail of this plot that proves that even in the most forgotten places, the most powerful legacies can be born. The cold Montana wind whipped Elias Vance's face as he pushed the rusty shopping cart through the parking lot of Willow Creek's only supermarket. Every creak of the wheels seemed to echo the weight in his heart. The crumpled, scribbled shopping list in his hand was a silent testament to the daily battle to make meager money stretch. Since returning from military service, civilian life had proven to be a different yet equally relentless battlefield, especially with a 7-year-old daughter, little Lily, depending solely on him. Lily, with her curious eyes and a smile that could melt the Montana winter ice, was the reason for his relentless struggle. She sat in the cart, humming an invented tune, oblivious to the worries that haunted her father. Elias watched her, a mixture of love and despair tightening his chest. He had promised himself that Lily would never lack for anything, but the reality was an insurmountable wall of bills to pay, and a salary that barely covered the basics. Upon entering the supermarket, the smell of fresh bread and cleaning products hit him, a cruel irony for someone who could barely afford essentials. Elias walked the aisles, calculating every cent, opting for the cheapest brands, ignoring Lily's childish desires for colorful candies. Dignity was a luxury he couldn't afford, but hope, however faint, still burned in his chest, fueled by his daughter's innocent gaze. That's when he saw her, a woman of impeccable appearance, wearing an elegant wool coat and dark glasses that hid her eyes, struggled to balance several paper bags full of groceries. She seemed out of place in that simple environment, like a rare jewel among common stones. One of the bags slipped, and its contents, including an expensive bottle of wine, threatened to fall. Without a second thought, Elias acted. He dropped his own cart and ran to help, catching the bag before disaster struck. His rough fingers touched hers, soft and delicate. Serafina Dubois, as he would later come to know her, looked at him with a mixture of surprise and gratitude. "Thank you very much," she said, her voice soft and melodious. Elias merely nodded a little awkwardly and returned to his cart, not giving much thought to the encounter. He didn't know that this simple act of kindness had planted the seed of a turning point that would change the course of their lives forever. Serafina Dubois watched Elias Vance walk away, the image of the single father and his curious daughter etched in her mind. That simple act of kindness, devoid of any expectation of reward, touched her in a way few things had in her reclusive and luxurious life. She was accustomed to flattery and self-interest, but Elias's genuine helpfulness was a breath of fresh air. Determined to know more about him, Serafina activated her contacts, initiating a discreet investigation into the life of the man who had helped her at the supermarket. Soon the reports arrived at her desk in the isolated mansion on the outskirts of Willow Creek. Serafina read about Elias's difficult life, his military service, the loss of his wife, and the daily struggle to support Lily. With each line, Serafina's admiration for him grew. She realized that Elias's kindness was not a coincidence, but rather a reflection of his resilience and character, forged in the adversities he had faced. The fortune she possessed seemed empty compared to the richness of spirit Elias displayed. An idea began to form in Serafina's mind. She didn't just want to give Elias money. She wanted him to feel the impact of her gratitude in a way that would help him alleviate his immediate concerns. Without his knowledge, Serafina arranged for an anonymous deposit into his bank account, a significant amount enough to cover some of the most urgent bills she knew he was facing. It was a gift, a silent gesture of appreciation with no strings attached. Days later, Elias was reviewing his accounts, a knot tightening in his stomach with each number. Suddenly, he noticed an unexpected credit on his bank statement. The amount was substantial, enough to pay the overdue rent and some utility bills. He frowned, confused. Where had that money come from? There was no sender, no explanation. He called the bank, but they couldn't provide any information about the origin of the deposit, only confirming that it was legitimate. Elias spent the next few days trying to unravel the mystery. He asked friends and family, but no one knew anything. At first, he suspected an error, but the money remained in his account. Although relieved by the unexpected help, a hint of distrust bothered him. Who would do something like that without identifying themselves? He had no idea that this anonymous gesture was just the prelude to a series of events that would lead him down a path he never imagined, and that the woman from the supermarket was the architect behind it. Serafina watched Elias from afar, satisfied with the impact of her anonymous gift. She saw the relief in his shoulders, the way he seemed to breathe a little lighter. But Serafina knew that a single deposit wouldn't solve Elias's problems in the long run. She had a bigger plan, one that would help her in her own quest and at the same time offer Elias the stability he and Lily so desperately needed. It was time to get closer, to reveal a little more of herself, but still maintaining the veil of mystery that surrounded her. One day, as Elias and Lily were strolling through the local park, Serafina appeared, as if by chance. She approached, with a warm but restrained smile. "Hello, Elias, isn't it?" she said, her voice as soft as the summer breeze. Elias recognized her immediately, the woman from the supermarket. He was surprised, but responded with his usual courtesy. After a brief conversation about the weather and the beauty of Willow Creek, Serafina launched her proposal, carefully crafted to seem like an opportunity and not charity. "I'm about to embark on a long journey," Serafina began, "and I need someone trustworthy to look after my property. It's a large house with gardens that require attention, and I prefer not to leave it empty. I thought of you, Elias. Your kindness at the supermarket impressed me, and I feel I can trust you." Elias listened, skeptical. Taking care of a mansion? It seemed too good to be true, and he was wary of offers that came out of nowhere. He hesitated, weighing the risks and rewards. Lily, however, was delighted. The idea of living in a big house with gardens to explore was a dream for her. Her eyes sparkled with excitement, and Elias felt the weight of his decision. He questioned Serafina about the details, the salary, the responsibilities. Serafina answered all his questions with clarity and patience, dispelling some of his concerns. Necessity, in the end, spoke louder than distrust. Elias, with a sigh, accepted the offer, but with one condition: he and Lily would go together. A few days later, Elias and Lily packed their few belongings and moved into Serafina's mansion. The culture shock was immediate. From the cramped, little apartment to the luxurious vastness of the mansion, it was like entering a different world. Lily ran through the corridors, marveling at each new room, while Elias tried to adapt to the new reality, still with one foot back. He knew there was something more behind Serafina's generosity, and his curiosity about the mysterious woman's past began to grow. A seed planted that would soon blossom into a search for answers. Serafina Dubois' mansion was a labyrinth of silent corridors and grand rooms, each with its own story to tell. Elias and Lily, in the first few days, explored every corner, marveling at the opulence and antiquity of the place. While Lily was enchanted by the extensive gardens and the antique toys she found in one of the attics, Elias, with his trained veteran's eye, noticed details that went unnoticed. There was something more to those objects, an aura of mystery that intrigued him. In one of the libraries, Elias found a hidden bookshelf behind an old tapestry. Curious, he opened it, revealing a small secret compartment. Inside, there was a carved wooden box, and inside it, a leather-bound diary with pages yellowed by time. The diary had no name, but the elegant handwriting and old dates indicated that it belonged to someone from Serafina's family. Elias felt a chill. That object seemed to carry deep secrets. Lily, who was playing nearby, noticed the diary and asked what it was. Elias hesitated. He knew that reading someone else's diary was an invasion of privacy, but his curiosity was overwhelming. The mansion, Serafina's inexplicable generosity, the anonymous gift, everything seemed to connect to a larger mystery. He felt that the key to understanding Serafina and his own situation lay in those old pages. With a sigh, he decided he needed to know. That night, after Lily fell asleep, Elias sat in the dim light of a lamp and opened the diary. The first pages spoke of a life of luxury and privilege, but soon the tone changed. The author, a woman named Alara, described the rise and fall of her family, the betrayal of a business partner, and the loss of everything they owned. Elias felt a pang of familiarity with the pain described, the pain of loss and injustice. The diary's revelations were shocking. Alara detailed how an unscrupulous man, a certain Arthur Sterling, had manipulated her family, stealing their fortune and leaving them in misery. The story was one of greed, betrayal, and a desperate search for justice. Elias realized that the mansion, Serafina's possessions, all of it was not just wealth, but the result of a long and painful journey. He didn't know what that meant for Serafina, but he felt he was about to uncover a secret that would change his perception of the woman who had helped him. Elias delved into the pages of Alara's diary, each word revealing a deeper layer of the tragedy that befell Serafina's family. The story was a tale of unbridled ambition and calculated betrayal. Arthur Sterling, her grandfather's business partner, had orchestrated a complex scheme to divert the Dubois family's assets, leaving them in misery and disgrace. Alara described the pain, humiliation, and helplessness of seeing her inheritance and legacy stolen by an unscrupulous man. The diary detailed the family's years of struggle to survive, the loss of their social standing, and the fruitless search for justice. Alara, with an iron determination, had sworn that one day she would reclaim what was rightfully hers. She spent her life researching, collecting evidence, and meticulously planning to expose Sterling and recover her family's fortune. Elias realized that Serafina's fortune was not just wealth, but the result of a carefully planned revenge, a life mission that had passed down through generations. As he read, Elias felt a mixture of admiration and discomfort. Alara's determination was inspiring, but the thirst for revenge that permeated the pages unsettled him. As a veteran, he knew the cost of war and retribution. Justice for him should be achieved through fair means, not through elaborate schemes. The question that haunted him was Serafina following in Alara's footsteps? Was she willing to do anything to recover what was lost, even if it meant crossing the line of morality? With the diary in hand, Elias decided to confront Serafina. He found her in the library, immersed in papers and documents. Their eyes met, and Elias felt the tension in the air. "I read this," he said, holding up the diary. Serafina showed no surprise, just a slight nod. "I knew you'd find it sooner or later," she replied, her voice calm but with an intensity Elias had never noticed before. Serafina then began to tell her version of the story, confirming every detail of Alara's diary. She explained that the pursuit of justice was a legacy of her family, a debt to be paid. Elias listened, absorbing every word, and realized that he was facing a woman driven by a powerful force, a force that could be both constructive and destructive. He knew that his life, and Lily's, was about to become irreversibly intertwined with the dark past of the Dubois family and Serafina's relentless quest for redemption. Serafina, with a disturbing calm, revealed to Elias the extent of her plan. It wasn't just about recovering the fortune, but about dismantling Arthur Sterling's empire, exposing his frauds and his network of corruption. She had spent years weaving this web, collecting irrefutable evidence, and now, with the help of Alara's diary and Elias's presence, she felt that the moment of truth was near. "I need your help, Elias," she said, her eyes fixed on his. "You have the integrity and experience. I need to finish this, and of course you and Lily will be generously rewarded." Elias felt a chill down his spine. Serafina's proposal was tempting. The promise of financial security for Lily was a dream he barely dared to dream. But the nature of the plan, the calculated revenge, deeply bothered him. He had fought for justice on battlefields, but always under the banner of law and morality. Getting involved in a scheme of personal retribution, however justified the cause, seemed to cross a dangerous line. He found himself in a moral dilemma, torn between loyalty to his own ethical compass and the desperate desire to provide a better life for his daughter. That same day, as he watched Lily play carefree in the mansion's vast gardens, her innocence struck him like lightning. She was happy, for the first time in a long time, free from the worries that haunted her father. The idea of tearing Lily away from that environment, of depriving her of that newfound joy, was unbearable. The pressure on Elias increased. He needed to make a decision that would affect not only his life but also his daughter's future. He spent the night awake, weighing the pros and cons. Serafina's kindness, the anonymous gift, the job opportunity, all of it had been a path to this moment. He knew that Serafina was not a bad woman, but a wounded woman seeking reparation. If he could guide her, perhaps he could ensure that justice was done without anyone else being harmed. He remembered his days in the army, the complex missions where the line between right and wrong was thin and where leadership was crucial. At dawn, Elias made his decision. He sought out Serafina and found her in her office, her eyes red with fatigue, but her determination still present. "I'll help you," Elias said, his voice firm. "But on one condition: no one will be harmed. Justice will be done, but without violence or injustice. If you agree to that, I'm with you." Serafina looked at him for a long moment, a spark of hope and relief in her eyes. She extended her hand and Elias shook it, sealing a pact that would lead them down a dangerous path, but one that, he hoped, would bring the peace they both sought. With the pact sealed, Elias and Serafina plunged into executing the final phase of the plan. The mansion, once a refuge of mystery, transformed into an improvised headquarters. Maps, documents, and diagrams covered the large library table, as Elias and Serafina worked side by side, combining Serafina's cunning and knowledge of the financial world with Elias's tactical acumen. and experience in handling high-pressure situations. The goal was clear: to expose Arthur Sterling irrefutably, using the information meticulously collected by Alara and refined by Serafina. The plan involved disclosing compromising financial documents to the right authorities and to the media to ensure that Sterling could not escape. Elias, with his experience in intelligence and security, was instrumental in identifying vulnerabilities and creating a secure communication system. He also used his skills to anticipate Sterling's possible reactions, preparing countermeasures for each scenario. The tension was palpable, but their determination was even greater. However, not everything went as planned. One of Serafina's contacts, a journalist who was supposed to publish the story, hesitated at the last minute, fearing retaliation from Sterling. Elias had to intervene, using his persuasive ability and presenting additional evidence that the journalist could not ignore. There was also an incident where one of Serafina's servers was attacked by hackers, a clear attempt by Sterling to destroy the evidence. Elias, with his cybersecurity experience, managed to contain the attack and protect the data. At another critical moment, Elias had to use his veteran skills more directly. While trying to access a physical file in a safe in an old Sterling office, they were surprised by security guards. Elias, with agility and precision, managed to defuse the situation without violence, ensuring Serafina's safety and obtaining the crucial document. Each setback served to strengthen the partnership between them, and Elias began to see Serafina not just as a woman seeking revenge, but as a capable and resilient ally. The partial success of the plan came with the publication of the first articles in the media, which began to raise serious questions about Arthur Sterling's business practices. Sterling's name, once untouchable, began to be dragged through the mud. However, the victory was bittersweet. Elias felt that with each step towards justice, they delved deeper into a dangerous game, and the consequences, he knew, could be unpredictable. The fight was far from over, and Sterling's next move would be crucial. The exposure of Arthur Sterling in the media was a devastating blow to his reputation and his business. However, the man was not one to give up easily. Anger and desperation drove him to retaliate brutally and unexpectedly. He used his vast network of contacts and resources to launch a smear campaign against Serafina, trying to discredit her and undermine the credibility of the accusations. Elias and Serafina found themselves in the eye of a media storm, with their personal lives being scrutinized and distorted. But Sterling's retaliation was not limited to reputational attacks. Veiled threats began to emerge, directed not only at Serafina, but also at Elias, and, most terrifyingly, at Lily. One day, as Elias was taking Lily to school, a dark car followed them closely, and an anonymous message arrived on Serafina's phone with a photo of Lily playing in the mansion's garden. Fear chilled Elias's blood. He had promised to protect his daughter, and now she was in danger because of his choices. The community of Willow Creek, once a haven of peace, became a stage for gossip and distrust. Some residents, influenced by Sterling's campaign, began to see Serafina as a dark figure and Elias as her accomplice. Others, however, remained loyal to Elias, remembering his kindness and integrity. The town was divided, and the tension was palpable. Elias felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, realizing that his actions were affecting not only his family, but the entire community. Elias began to question the price of revenge. Serafina's fortune, once a symbol of power and redemption, now seemed like a curse. Wealth brought no happiness, only more problems and dangers. He realized that true victory was not in destroying Sterling, but in protecting those he loved and finding peace. He needed to change strategy, find a way to stop Sterling without putting Lily at risk without becoming as ruthless as his enemy. With Lily's safety as the top priority, Elias decided it was time to act differently. He began to devise a plan to expose Sterling in a way that could not be refuted, but that would also ensure his family's safety. He knew it would be a difficult battle, but the determination in his eyes was unwavering. He was no longer fighting for revenge, but for a safe and peaceful future for Lily, and for the community he had learned to love. Given the escalation of Sterling's threats and the imminent danger to Lily, Elias and Serafina knew they needed a radical change of plans. Revenge, however justified, was taking too high a toll. Lily's safety was paramount, and to protect her, they would have to give up some of what they had fought so hard to recover. Serafina, for the first time, showed a vulnerability Elias had never seen. The obsession with retribution began to give way to genuine concern for the innocent child. "We cannot risk Lily's life for this," Elias said, his voice firm, but with a pleading tone. "There are other ways to do justice." Serafina looked at him, her eyes moist. Elias's integrity, his unwavering devotion to his daughter, made her question her own motivations. She realized that true victory was not in seeing Sterling destroyed, but in protecting what was pure and good. Fortune, legacy, everything seemed insignificant in the face of the possibility of losing Lily. Together they devised a new plan. Instead of a public exposure that could incite more violence, they opted for a more strategic and legal approach. Elias, with Serafina's help, gathered all the evidence against Sterling and presented it to an attorney general in a neighboring state, known for his incorruptibility and his ability to handle complex financial fraud cases. They attached a condition. Lily and Elias's safety should be guaranteed, and the recovered fortune would be used for a charity fund in the Dubois family's name, with a significant portion allocated to social projects in Willow Creek. Serafina, in making this concession, felt a weight lifted from her shoulders. The revenge that had consumed her for years began to dissipate, replaced by a greater sense of purpose. Elias, in turn, felt immense relief. He was no longer fighting a personal war, but seeking justice in a way that would benefit everyone. The community of Willow Creek, upon learning of the initiative, began to unite in support of Elias and Serafina, realizing that they were not villains, but people seeking the common good. The legal process against Sterling was slow and arduous, but the evidence was irrefutable. The media, once divided, now reported the story with a new perspective, focusing on Serafina's courage and Elias's integrity. Redemption was underway, not just for Serafina but for the entire community. Elias knew that the road ahead would still be challenging, but with Lily safe and Serafina by his side, he was ready to face anything. Arthur Sterling's trial was a media spectacle, with the nation following every twist and turn. The evidence presented by Serafina and Elias was overwhelming, and Sterling, once untouchable, was finally convicted of fraud and money laundering. Justice had been served, but not in the violent and vengeful way Serafina had planned in her years of obsession. The victory, however, brought with it an even more surprising revelation, one that would change Elias and Lily's lives forever. After Sterling's conviction, Serafina summoned Elias for a serious conversation in the mansion's library. The atmosphere was charged with an expectation Elias couldn't decipher. Serafina, with a solemn expression, began to talk about Elara's diary, about her family's history, and the search for the lost fortune. Elias listened attentively, imagining she would talk about the future of the charity fund or her own departure. But what came next left him speechless. "Elias," Serafina began, her voice choked with emotion. "There's something I need to tell you, something Elara's diary didn't fully reveal. I am not the true heir to the Dubois fortune. I am in fact a guardian, appointed by Elara to find the true heir, the last descendant of the Dubois lineage who was hidden to protect her from Sterling. Elias frowned, confused. But who would that person be? He asked, his heart beating faster. Serafina took Elias's hand and placed it on the diary. The true heir, she said, her eyes fixed on his, is Lily. Elias felt the ground disappear beneath his feet. Lily? His small, innocent Lily? Serafina explained that Elara's family and Elias's family had an ancient connection, a secret pact of protection and lineage dating back generations. Lily was the last direct descendant, the only one who could truly claim the legacy of Willow Creek. The twist was overwhelming. Lily, the girl he had fought so hard to protect, was the heir to a vast fortune, the missing link in a complex history. Elias, with Serafina's help, who now found herself free from her burden of revenge and embraced her new role as mentor and friend, decided that Lily's fortune would be used for the greater good. They invested in Willow Creek, building schools, hospitals, and community centers, transforming the small town into a beacon of hope and prosperity. Elias and Serafina, now partners and friends, worked together to build a better future for Willow Creek, proving that true wealth was not in money, but in kindness, community, and the legacy of unconditional love. And so, the story of Willow Creek unfolds, a testament to the enduring power of human connection and the unexpected paths that lead to true fulfillment. Elias, once a solitary figure burdened by the past, found a new purpose in building a brighter future for his daughter and his community. Serafina, freed from the shackles of vengeance, discovered a deeper meaning in her life by nurturing a legacy of compassion and growth. Lily, the innocent heart of it all, became the symbol of hope, a living embodiment of a future where kindness triumphs over greed. The legacy of Willow Creek reminds us that even in the quietest corners of the world, extraordinary stories are waiting to be written. It teaches us that true wealth lies not in material possessions, but in the bonds we forge, the sacrifices we make, and the positive impact we have on the lives of others. It is a story that echoes the timeless truth that a single act of kindness can indeed ripple through generations, shaping destinies and leaving behind a legacy far more valuable than any fortune. So as the sun sets over the majestic mountains of Montana, casting long shadows over Willow Creek, we are left with a profound understanding. The real legacy is not what we inherit, but what we build, what we share, and the love we leave behind. And in Willow Creek, a new chapter begins, written not with ink, but with the enduring spirit of a community transformed by the power of a simple, unexpected encounter.